Welcome to the channel, Lower the Shield. My name is Mark Foreman. I used to be a therapist, used to be a cop, used to be a lot of things. Now I'm here just sharing my perspective, bringing in some psychology and some other life experiences around whatever shows up. But today, there's a specific topic that prompted me to come on and do a live stream, and that was a few days ago. Knox Hill. Uh, the link to his channel will be down below in the comments and in the description. He released a song called "I Need a Minute." I've watched it a few times already. This is not going to be a reaction video. This is going to be me. Maybe me. I don't know where it's going to go. But we'll be talking about the content of what Knox Hill was singing about. I found it to be a very moving song and a lot of insight, but also found motivation in it. It came alongside right around the same time that another individual that I follow on YouTube is a photographer. Her name is Kim Grant. She's out of Scotland, and she also the same day or close to it that Knox Hill released his video. She released a video around using on the power of photography to help her heal through grief. So that prompted me to say, well, yeah, me too. I've lost several people throughout my life. And if we live long enough, we will all lose somebody that we care about deeply. And it affects each of us in its own way. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So stick around toward the end, I guess, kind of offer maybe some suggestions on maybe how to navigate grief and bereavement if it applies to you or at some point in the future, or if you know somebody that may be going through and struggling with the pain and the sadness and the suffering that might come with it. So with that, not sure what order I want to do this, but let's go ahead and watch and listen to Knox Hill's song. I'm not going to interrupt it. I'm going to let it play through in its entirety, and then kind of unpack it here after that. Just with my view with all my education and training and experience of doing grief counseling with individuals, etc. So let's get into it.
Yeah, it's my healing music. Somebody could get up, yeah. Alarm rings, still dreaming of them palm trees. Somewhere out in Palm Springs, play me some of Psalms, please. Got my head up in my palms, praying please, pay the fee. I've been down, I've been weak, I've been sick of counting sheep. Quick, I'm drowning on my feet, slip my balance on these feet. I've been doubting on my dreams, I need sleep. I fiend for these beats, I bleed on these sheets. My dreams are in reach, so I'm singing, lady.
Yeah, you know I'm still counting on you. Even if you're dead and gone. No, I'm still counting on you. Yeah. Yeah, I've never stopped living my truth. Cause I don't wanna try alone. So I'm asking, please, what do I do? Yeah.
Lost my grandfather not a week ago. He used to pick me up from school and taught me what I need to know. But he got sick, dementia hit, diseases start to eat him whole. But I've been on the road trying to heat my flows and feed my home. That call came on the video, he had me shook. I called the airline, next plane my flight was booked. It was a rush, but I swore that I would make it. Pops picked me up from Dulles, I was praying he was waiting. We hit the beltway, like damn, too much breaking. We tried to keep it cool, but I knew that fate was hating. I turned up the tunes, we pushing through, I was mistaken. 20 minutes out, phone rings, he didn't make it. What? Like what you mean he didn't make it? I told him I was coming, what you mean he should be waiting? I pulled up to his house, but that's now the wrong location. The angel's got his number and his home's been elevated, damn.
Yeah, you know I'm still counting on you. Even if you're dead and gone. No, I'm still counting on you. Yeah. Yeah, I've never stopped living my truth. Cause I don't wanna try alone. So I'm asking, please, what do I do? Yeah.
Tell me me things I didn't know. I let the bass cry. I don't think that I can give it hope. 200 in my pocket, I was hoping I could miss a go. I paid for the studio and let the speakers hit my soul. Wrong time, I am in the wrong setting, but the music is the closest thing I can get to heaven. My tears fill this verse, I don't know who I'm affecting. I pour my heart into these rhymes, I hope you get the message. I come from PG, it's a land full of zeros without role models, but that man was my hero. So grandfather, I just hope I make you proud. May you play this up in heaven and I hope it makes you smile. I just hope you looking down, your grandson is still grinding. Now I ain't make it yet, but it's all in good timing. I do this for my daughters and my wife is right behind me. Until the day we meet again, just know I'll keep on climbing till I see you at the top.
Still counting on you, even if you're dead and gone. I'm still counting on you. Yeah, I'll never stop living my truth. I don't wanna try alone. So much, please, what do I do? Yeah.
So there we have it. As I watch this, I'm thinking back to what prompted me to maybe even connect and watch it to begin with. I follow a lot of different creators on YouTube on a couple of different channels, and I don't always have a chance to view everything. But one of the things that struck me is that Knox Hill, in the days leading up to the release of this piece, was putting out a couple of posts to his community. And just a little snippet of what was grabbing my attention is one of them was this one. Uh, 11 days ago, this Thursday, I leave it all on the page. I'm releasing one of the rawest, most vulnerable songs I've ever written. To those we've lost along the way, gone but never forgotten. The idea of that kind of piqued my attention and it resonated with me. I've listened to many of Knox's songs, and certainly as a as a song reactor, the dude knocks it out of the park. But here was this authenticity that something raw was hitting him, and he's going to do it anyway. But he's letting us know. Uh, some might say, well, he was marketing. I didn't get that. I got that this was a raw vulnerability that he was letting us know about. So then a couple of days later, uh, the day that it was releasing, when I wrote this, I was in a dark place and still am kind of. But I knew I wanted to use the music as my way to work through my emotions. And that is so important. He kind of gets to it in the song. Of, and we're gonna pull this apart a little bit in more detail here, I think. But then he did another post, maybe the same day, a little bit. Uh, oh, going the wrong way here. Sorry, guys. Um, he did another post the day that he released the song, also letting us know that he was vulnerable and somehow the song was being useful, but he was also concerned about us, his community. And that is so important for any of us to look at, that this is a community. What got me going on this channel here, even way back when I did my first analysis with Hi Ren, was how YouTube was, in all its harshness and everything that sometimes can be present with it, tends to be a tight community that is empathic and compassionate for each other and for those within our lives, even though we all may be struggling once in a while. And it's a place where people can share their struggles and then other people can identify with them. So this idea with loss and grief then, it is a natural thing that happens just because we're alive. We're going to lose everything that we care for at some point, or those around us are going to lose us. And one of the things that brings a tear to my eye, and it did just now as we were watching this together, is his description of him losing his grandfather, of me relating to I am a grandfather, and at some point, those that maybe care about me are going to lose me. And there's this like bidirectional sense of responsibility, of importance that how do I interact with those that care for me so that they can form memory so that when I am gone, they can remember me a certain way. How do I want to be remembered? And then for them, once I am gone, how do they remember me? And what impact does it have on them? Is it a positive one? Is it one that drops them to their knees? And we don't know. We never know. That's just as a grandfather. There's so many ways that we can lose the people that we care about. Uh, in this song, Knox Hill mentions dementia, and that's a tough one for a family to navigate. Also, that when a member within the family is struggling with dementia, it affects the entire family and everybody around them. And it's as though they're losing them slowly and gradually. And the final last breath then is sometimes a form of release, maybe even a relief, but it's as though they lose them gradually because of the cognitive abilities and functions that start to fade away. There's other times when people die suddenly and tragically, unexpectedly. There's just so many different ways, and they all can affect us. And the reason they affect us is if we care about them. The more we care about somebody, sometimes uh, the more pain that we might feel when they're gone and when we miss them. And we don't always get to say goodbye. That's another key part with the song. I need a minute. Is that sometimes there's an urgency. We get a call. Hey, you need to get here. Your loved one is doesn't have much more time. Might be because they've been dealing with cancers or dementia or old age and just simply aging, and or it could be other things. So sometimes we'll get the call, and we may be way, way, way far away across the country. In the song, it's coming from Pittsburgh all the way out to Palm Springs, all the way, pretty much all the way across the continent of the United States. Well, the United States isn't a continent, all the way across the country of the United States. But also, it could just simply be driving a couple miles across town and not getting there in time to say goodbye. The loss then can affect us differently when it doesn't seem like there might have been closure. And so there's ways of navigating all this, and this part of what I'll talk about toward the end here. And then he also mentions being able to pull strength, his own personal strength from his memories and the teachings that he got from his grandfather throughout life, maybe, but certainly maybe as a child, as a kid. Sometimes the lessons that we learn from people that we've lost don't become apparent until after we've lost them. Then we go, hey, oh, how about that? This kind of experience for me personally hit home after my son was killed in a car crash almost 12 years ago. Uh, so many lessons for me moving through that that I was able to learn just from my brief interaction with him up until that point. So there's some things that can affect then how we navigate through these processes. And the way I would describe it with my clients is it's not supposed to be easy. It's not meant to be easy. It's supposed to hurt throughout different cultures and different environments and different eras. The practice of wearing black, of putting a black armband on or whatever to indicate that we're in mourning is more than just a sociological, societal practice. It can be a sign, a symbol out to the rest of the people around us that we're not okay, that we may not be our normal selves because maybe we've lost somebody. the mourning process. Uh, One of the biggest lessons I learned when my son was killed, I was in the last semester of graduate school, and it ground me to a halt. I almost didn't finish. I was ready to trash it all, walk away from my dissertation, and do whatever. I didn't really know. And one of my professors, psychologist, he pulled me aside and he said, "Expect to be fucked up for a year." And I didn't know what he meant. But then he recommended a couple books to me, being an academic. I got them, I started reading them, and started to find out that, hey, yeah, it's what comes with that. When we lose somebody, it can get us off our game in almost all areas of our life. Our ability to think straight, our ability to handle emotions and navigate emotions, our spirituality, our sense of who we are. That can affect us physically. Uh, so it has the potential to affect us in all areas of our life. And that aspect then is okay, well, what do we do with it? If we know that it's coming, we know that it's going to hurt, then so I'd often get asked, why is this one hurt more than I've lost people before? I've lost my pets before, but why is this one hurt so much? And that's not a simple answer. There's not a simple why to it. It could be that all the other ones accumulated, and now this one just seems overwhelming. It could be some sense of meaning that this particular loss, this particular passing of a loved one has for us. Even when friends uh, uh, leave this world, we feel it deeply sometimes, and it lingers with us. It kind of reaches in and just grabs a hold of us and pulls us along, uh, and may drop us to our knees. And it may just have to do with where we were in our life at that time. If we're going through some anxiety, some depression, some struggle in our life, in our jobs, in our careers, in our relationships, and along comes this loss through death, which is permanent, it could feel more hurtful than maybe some other ones. And one of the challenges that some people lean into once in a while is comparing theirs to somebody else's. And one of the things I have learned is there is no comparison. If it hurts, it hurts. It's supposed to hurt. And it hurts, the more it hurts, it's probably a sign inwardly that you cared so much about it. And they go, well, my friend here, he lost his dad, his grandfather, his son, and he seemed to just get over it. The thing with that is, though, we don't know how much it hurts on the inside. We can only see what we see on the outside. So there's a hazard there on comparing our suffering, our pain, our grief, our loss to other people's, as it's ours and nobody else's. That's why it's a loss. It's our loss. It's not somebody else's loss. They may feel a loss around the same person passing, but it's going to be different for them as well. One of the phrases in the song that Knox Hill used was a metaphor of drowning on my feet, kind of a sense that maybe at some moment when through his processing, he felt like that he was just being overwhelmed and drowning on my feet, that just not being able to kind of get our head above water or something like that. Very common experience for people to feel like that it's just overwhelming, that life is overwhelming. Don't know where we are, don't know what time it is, don't know what day it is. I can't think straight. The overwhelm can show up in all sorts of different ways, and it can come and go. And that's one of the important aspects of it is one of the metaphors I like to use is like riding a wave, that we can have the crest of the wave doing really fine, and all of a sudden the wave takes us for a tumble and tosses us, churns us in the surf, and then spits us out. And yet we survive it. We come out and then we turn around and we go, well, let's do that again. And we go back out in the surf and engage with another wave. Grief could be like that. Other forms of emotional upsets also can be like that. Is it can be like riding a wave. Some are little swells, ups and downs of life, and others are they take us for a tumble and spit us back out. The worse for wear sometimes. So some of the parallels, when I mentioned that I'd also watched uh, a release on YouTube recently by Kim Grant, where she was talking about healing her grief through her photography, through her creation, through the creativity. And that's what Knox is talking about here. Using creativity as a therapeutic outlet. Uh, I think now that I'm saying it right now, that this is what I'm doing now is I continue to heal from everything that I carry, and I use YouTube as a mechanism for doing that. Whether it's the photography channel that I have over at Sing to the Mountain, or whether it's what I produce over here at Lower the Shield, it's for me the process, the creative process is important for me, and it continues to help me tweaking and adjusting my pain and suffering. And I think that's what Knox is getting at also. He articulates it so well. Oftentimes, we can retreat back into where our creativity is to find solace. And oftentimes, it changes our creativity as we move through it in ways that we may not have anticipated. Sometimes uh, it can be a spark, a catalyst, a mechanism for nudging our creativity forward. Oftentimes, it can feel though like we don't want to do it. We don't want to be creative right now. We're feeling too sad or too morose, melancholy, something like that. And say, well, I don't want to create. And finding that space to, as a creator, to give yourself permission not to create for a moment or two, or a day, or a month, or a year, knowing that it's still there. The creative spark might still be there. It might even redirect in a different uh, domain of creativity. And that kind of brings up the idea then of resilience and hope. And Knox identifies that also. Uh, he talks about persevering for his family. And that's so important to have purpose in continuing on without the person that we've lost. We can bring their memories forward, but they can't come forward with us. And we can find purpose and meaning. Sometimes it's with those that we uh, kind of have a responsibility to care for, our spouses, our kids, our significant others. Uh, it doesn't have to be. It can be other aspects also that we can lean in and find meaning for living, for moving forward. We move forward differently. Grief and loss does change us. Um, so also finding hope. Being able to identify hope within us, and in the song here, it's connecting with the way he sensed his grandfather's legacy. And each of us, we can leave a legacy when we do move on. Uh, we don't always know what it'll be. It's almost like the people that are still here are the ones that form the legacy. They uh, in the production Hamilton, there's a bit in the play where they're talking about who will tell your story. And sometimes that can be important. Is what story do you want them to tell that can impact the way you live your life? But knowing that there's going to be somebody telling your story. Rarely do we go unforgotten. And that's the legacy. It'll be unique for each of us here that as to how we create our own legacies. So this also reminds me of there was a movie that came out in 2014. It was called Rudderless. Billy Crudup was the main actor in it, and it was a deeply moving movie for me. And uh, as I do the outro here and kind of walk us out, I'll maybe play a little bit of a song from that movie. But seeing how an individual in that movie is in deep suffering and sorrow, and I'm not going to give away the essence of the movie, but that individual is struggling deeply and harshly and found a way to heal through music. And it was powerful, powerful transformation. And it's the transformation that we go through as we navigate through the grief and the loss and the bereavement. That is really that's where the healing happens, is through the transformation. One of the things, maybe you've heard of this, uh, oftentimes we're told that, oh, well, there's 5 stages of grief: denial, anger, it's over here, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. I suggest that that's a nice place to start. That model was created by Kubler-Ross, Dr. Kubler-Ross, way back in the 1970s. And one of the criticisms of that model, and it's very popular, we hear it a lot, is it looks as though it goes in stages. And oftentimes people would come into my office for therapy, and they would be upset because maybe they weren't hitting all 5 of them. They felt like they weren't angry for some reason, or they never denied it, or they were in full acceptance, or they were never bargaining. And the thing with that model, though, is Kubler-Ross, when she conceptualized that model, it was around people that were in the stages of terminal illness. It was a model to help describe what they were going through as they were coming to terms with their illness and with the end of their life. It wasn't meant for the survivors, the family members and the friends of people that died, but it's turned into that, and it works for many. So if it's useful for you, then use that and recognize that if you're angry or you're bargaining or you find yourself bargaining, and it tends to find relief when we finally move into acceptance. But more modern models in the 70s, like 50 years ago, so the more current stuff, which is research based, is more of a transformational model. And in the song, Knox pretty much identifies the urgency of having to get to where his grandfather was to say goodbye, of, oh, it's beginning. The transformation is beginning. And to recognize that for any of us, when we're transforming through anything, it's rarely a linear process. It's messy. Life is messy. Uh, so most of the healing models today, there's several, and I'm not going to get into the weeds as to naming them and stuff here, but just recognize that sometimes anger might be here, sometimes sadness, sometimes joy and laughter, and back to sadness or depression, or it's like we're all over the chart. And back to when my one professor said to be expect to be effed up for a year, that's really what he was getting at, is the simple little things of walking down the street, driving down the street, seeing somebody that looks like your loved one. And yet you got to catch your brain and say, it can't be because they died last week or last month or 6 months ago. But the body will fully engage and bring all the emotions of everything that comes with that. Moving through the house or simply listening to a song, or there's so many ways that we can remember the person that we're missing so much that it takes us all over the place. So the transformation is recognizing it. Sometimes we might be angry. Sometimes we might be in denial. Sometimes we might be in some other state of emotions. They're not in stages, but they tend to move toward a new way of being over time, and it takes time. The healing requires time. It's not that time heals all wounds. It takes time to heal. And when we recognize that, then we can move along and recognize that, oh, I am in a moment of missing this person. Well, that's because they were so important. And sometimes the things that we miss aren't just the joyful things and the fun things. Sometimes we might miss even some of the ways that they may have been obstinate or a pain in the ass or something like that. It's like, wow, look at that. I'm missing it all. It's because it was a whole person that has passed on. It's so we miss that whole person, the pain in the hole in our heart misses all of it, not just the good stuff. And when we allow space for that, that's where the healing really starts to happen and the new changes happen for us. And then we come out, we have the ability then to find our creativity again and use the experience in our creative efforts, whether it's music, photography, painting, sculpting. Uh, there's all sorts of ways of being creative, writing, creative writing, uh, etc. That we can use the experiences then to inform how our creativity then can grow and take off. So the useful model then is to look at DABDA, I'll put it back up here again. The the denial, the anger, the bargaining, the depression, the acceptance. But recognize it doesn't have to go in that order, or maybe that there's some other uh, models that can be more useful for you. And then when is it time to get therapy? Not all grief needs to go see formally, officially to see a therapist. Uh, but there are many therapists around the globe who, in fact, most therapists, if they're doing clinical therapy, are somehow navigating and dealing with clients around the idea of loss and grief. Some very specifically, they specialize in that kind of therapy, but most therapists will deal with it and they're informed on how to lend assistance. If in the United States, the DSM-5 is the kind of the go-to on diagnosing whether or not it's uh, grief or whether it's complicated bereavement. Uh, some of the guidelines is if it's over a year, back to that expect to be screwed up for a year comment from my professor, then something's changed internally, and therapy certainly would be indicated for many people, but not for everybody. But also, just navigating through it, and if it's too painful, too overwhelming, reach out to a spiritual counselor, whatever faith might be informing. Reach out to a therapist. Reach out to a counselor of some sort. Uh, you don't have to do it alone, and that's the one thing is because this is part of the human condition. Is we're not alone in it, but we feel alone. We feel like we're floundering and it's only our pain. And like I said, it is our loss. So it's only us that get to feel it the way we feel it, but others can feel it also or can relate and might be a lend of assistance. And recognizing that sometimes people may say the wrong thing that might say, well, that didn't help. Uh, might be well intentioned, but maybe they just do it out of not knowing or whatever. But just to know that you don't have to do it alone. So reaching out for therapy if necessary. If it's feeling overwhelmed, reach a hand out. Say, hey, I don't want to do this alone. I can't do this alone. But also to being able to notice that it does fade. You start to be able to remember your loved one, and your lost person in your life without feeling overwhelmed, without collapsing. But that'll take time. So I think I'm going to wrap up for now. I do tend to go on a little longer than I think some people like to endure. So uh, thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. If you've got anything useful out of any of this, maybe push that like button and subscribe so you can continue to get more of this kind of content. So, kind of redirecting back to Knox. I wish him well and his family and all those within his circle relief from their sorrow and pain. But similarly, for all of you out there that may be watching this now or in the future, may you find relief from your sorrow and pain, and maybe finding meaning to it, developing a new meaning to whatever it is that you're going through. Because we're not alone. So may you be well.
Take a breath and count the stars. Let the